Like,
Yeah.
write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So essential tips for creating harmony, we just kicked off without even knowing we were kicking off, was write it down, brain dump, get it all out of your head. Yeah,
absolutely. Actually, that's a really good point, because that's something that I've said to people before, because in this idea of creating harmony, you want to feel closer to that zero, like we were talking about on our scale there. But if you've got a lot of thoughts going on in your head, a lot of, oh my God, I have to do this and I have to remember that and I have to tell that person this and I have to ask for this and that's not harmonious.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest, and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
And welcome to our deliciously motivated mindset conversation with Debz and Moira. Hi, Moira.
Hi, my dear. How are you?
And every time Deborah introduces herself, there's always something different.
It's always something different, and quite often quite lyrical as well. Little sing-song going there.
Yeah, there's usually a little sing. Although today I don't think I even moved in my chair. Da, 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 da. So thank you for joining us, to our lovely listeners out there, and to our lovely Moira, because it would be pretty boring if I had to do it all myself.
Yeah, can you imagine just sitting here talking to yourself? Well, actually, I could imagine.
I just went, it's daily I do that. Yeah. Can't argue. You can't. You can't. It's a great banter towards yourself. That's the one. Oh, well, as you've listened to us before, or you haven't, one of the things we say is usually it's a goodie. And holy gamoly, today's topic is a goodie. Is a goodie. And as we were chatting off air, and then we were talking about certain things, and then I said, what's our topic today? And laughed hysterically, because our topic is literally just what we were discussing. Before we came on here.
How many times does that happen though? Because
I think every time
we don't even check the title, and then we have our
1 hour probably.
Our 1 hour.
Oh yeah, 1 hour.
Fix the world conversation. Fix our world. Yeah. And then say, oh, what we're talking about? Oh, look at. Of course it's this that we're talking about today.
Of course this is it. Of course, because we were both talking about a little bit of out of harmony.
Yes.
Out of harmony. So thank you for joining us, everybody. If you've listened to us before or not, we just do a little check-in. I don't even know what we call it. What do we actually call it?
Well, it's a self-assessment.
Self-assessment, yes.
Self-assessment, yes.
We do a self-assessment, and that self-assessment is checking where you are emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, just in general, basically in general. And you're going to check in whether you are a 10, which is a number between 9 and 11, and that is a number that creates chaos. It's where you're sitting in complete chaos, frazzled in the corner, or running away from everything, not picking up your phone, hiding, don't let me deal with it, crying,
hiding or running away even too. Yeah, running away.
Yeah, complete frazzle would be it. And that would be a 10. And then we go from the 9 to 8 to the 7 to the 6, as actually we all know how to count. And then a 0 is where we're aiming for, and a 0 is 0 for Zen.
Zen out at 0. Yep.
Oh, and even just saying that, I instantly felt my shoulders just go, oh yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. It's like sometimes people have that first mouthful of coffee in the morning. Or that beautiful spring water, or open their eyes and see the sunshine or rain or snow, it is in Moira's case right now. And they go, and that's that Zen moment.
Yep.
And so that's a 0. So we check in with ourselves now. We do it halfway, and then we do it at the end. And our intention, the podcast intention, is to shift you to that 0. But do not beat yourself up with your number. It's not the end of the world if you say you're a 5 and you're really a 4, or you say you're a 5 and you're really an 8.
You can't get this wrong. It's not a test.
Yeah, and there's no comparison, but what tends to happen is Moira and I both giggle because we end up being on the same number, or we're 0.5 out, but it's pretty much where we're at each time. So listeners, let us know your number now before we kick off. Moira, what's your number?
2.
And that was a 2.
That was a 2.
And guess where my number is? 2.
You're a 2. 2.
So it's as easy as that. We're both 2 2s. There we are. And then we write that on a piece of paper and we leave it till the end of our podcast. And as I talk about writing on the piece of paper, grab some pen and paper, because we're going to kick off, and I would love you to take some notes that will definitely, it's actually essential tips for creating harmony. So unless you've got a memory bank that you're going to remember every single word we say, I would suggest essential tips for creating harmony is get pen and paper's number 1.
Yeah. That will create
to write
harmony
them down.
So you can write them down.
Yeah, actually, that's actually probably a real legit one. Because when I think about it, it's actually, don't store stuff in your head. Write it down.
Yeah,
there you go. So essential tips for creating harmony, we just kicked off without even knowing we were kicking off, was write it down. Brain dump. Get it all out of your head. Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, that's a really good point, because that's something that I've said to people before, because in this idea of creating harmony, you want to feel closer to that 0, like we were talking about on our scale there. But if you've got a lot of thoughts going on in your head, a lot of, oh my God, I have to do this, and I have to remember that, and I have to tell that person this, and I have to ask for this, and that's not harmonious.
No, well, we've experienced Christmas, and what are we doing for Christmas Day, and what are we food, and who needs to do what? Who's going to store that in your head? That was brain overload. Totally. That festive season. I mean, I think so. I don't know, maybe for some people, but writing it down is
I'm such a believer in writing things down. I start my week with writing everything down that I want to get to, even if it's like, oh, I'm going to do this on Friday, or I need to follow up with such and such on, and name the days. That's just an important part. But this is the essential tip for creating harmony, is to not feel like you have to keep everything in your head.
Well, I just pulled up my notes. I've got 3,638 notes on my phone. Now, clearly might be I write too much down. But if I look at them, there's somebody's phone number from yesterday, a comment I made to someone, they said, that's a good comment. There's a link in there. Someone actually put something on social media, and I went, oh, I love the way they've worded that. I've screenshotted that and put that into my notes. There's a lot in my notes. And it just means I don't have to store that in my head. So if someone goes, hey, have you thought about doing that? I'm like, hang on, I did see something like that, or I did think something like that. Let me go into my notes. And they're just sitting there on my phone. Right. And all my computers and everything sync. Well, some days.
When there's harmony.
Yeah, when there's harmony. When there's harmony.
Absolutely. The other thing too, so my next tip would be that to create harmony, it's really important to focus on the things that you can do something about. Because if we get caught up on things that we can't control or we can't do anything about, it's kind of gonna drag us down a crazy train type of thing, right?
Well, that's it. I think that's that saying that someone said to me last year, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And I instantly went, I beg your pardon. I went to reactive mode. I went to 10, just, on that scale of stay in your lane. I beg your pardon. In fact, there might have been a little colourful words in between. What do you mean stay in my lane? I'm already sitting in my lane and defensive. But it is that focus on things you can do about, so stay in your lane. Not my monkey, not my circus. There's so many of those sayings that we hear that we actually get.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, okay, actually you're right. I can't do anything about the traffic outside.
Yeah.
So I can't do anything about it. I've just got to accept it, love it, and not let it get to me, basically.
Yes. You'll find things that are not of your preference, but if there's nothing you can do about it, you can acknowledge that's not my preference. I would prefer not to be stuck in traffic, but I am. So what can I do? Well, I can listen to a podcast.
Listen to this podcast. I was just going to say, I'm sure there's a podcast out there. I'm sure there's a podcast you can listen to.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is focus on things you can do things about, because often when you get frazzled is stuff that's out of your control.
That's right.
I mean, and I try not to do this, but I'm going to say 2020. There was so much that was out of our control that we just were pretty much treading water, trying to keep our heads out of the water, floating to keep us functioning. But there's so much that we couldn't control, because you could just control your emotions and what was happening immediately around you before you started focusing on the bigger picture, which was literally just in front of you anyway. Just
in front of you. Don't you think this, just as you're saying that, I think there's we get called upon to just surrender to, there is stuff that's out of my control and I'm not going to sweat it.
Surrender used to be a word that I would say was a failure. I'm surrendering. I'm giving in.
I don't mean in that context at all, because there's huge power if you get out of that thinking. I'm not saying surrender because you're powerless. No, well, to hell with it, I'm going to give up. That's not what I mean. I mean, I'm going to have everything with a light hold, and if I can't hold on, I'm just going to release it, because it's part of the flow. And there's more power there, which actually is a lot more harmonious, isn't it?
Yeah. And I also, even just the word harmonious, I was talking to a woman, I don't even know if it was yesterday or the day before. Oh, no, it was the day before, that's right. And she said something about her husband, and she says, it's so frustrating. He doesn't do this. And it was that, you could hear it. You could feel it. I could feel it firing through the thing. And I said, well, imagine if he actually did do what he wanted to do. And she was like, well, I've never seen him do that. She goes, he's never in flow. He's stagnated. And I said, so what have you done? And she said, I've tried to do this, and I've tried to do this, and I've tried to do this, and I've tried to do this. And she started rattling off all these things that even made my hair turn grey just listening to her. And I said, you have to stop parenting him.
Right.
Stop parenting him.
Yes.
Stop parenting him. Just trust that he's going to be in flow. She's like, yeah, but he had this. And I'm like, it's not your thing. It's not your thing. Like, and I love that. Is that. And I said, your flow, stay in your flow. Because every time he does something, you jump out of your flow. That's where your life changes, because you're left to carry the weight of other things in your mind. And so it is. And I said, look, let's just label him a wet noodle. And she went, what? I said, let's label him a wet noodle. And she went, okay. I said, can you push a wet noodle? And she went, no. And I went, there you go. And she went, okay, I'll stop talking about him now. That's it. And I'm like, well, you can't stop talking about him, just for the record. But it is. And he has now been labelled, which is probably not a good thing for him, but a wet noodle. As you can't push a wet noodle. But why do you need to?
No, and that's actually a really good point, because I think in my own relationship that sometimes my husband will do or don't do something and I'll go like, I'm really like, why? And then I have to stop and go, okay, what can I do? Well, I can go and pick up the dirty dishes and put them in the dishwasher myself.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But then it's to really realize that it's actually my issue, right? Because in the grand scheme of things, it's just, that's the way it is.
If you're the one bickering about stuff, then it's your issue, not theirs. Yeah,
absolutely.
And
that's the point.
And that's and that's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. It's like, the buck stops with me.
That's right.
Okay, if I've got a problem with that piece of fluff that's been on the floor for 5 days, I used to do this with my daughter, and if it was there, and I'd be, we'd have brown carpet, or actually when we had cream carpet, And there'd always be something, I'd be like, okay. And so I'd step over it, and like 4 or 5 days later, I'd be like, it's still there. How does she not see it? And she'd go, I never saw it, Mum. I don't look down when I walk. And I was like,
which is a valid point.
I know. And then I'm like, how do you not see it? I look down when I walk.
Yes, because
she
has to walk, do it the way I do.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think that for 5 days I was like, why has she not done that? Do you know how many times I lifted my leg over that piece of fluff and it was getting bigger and bigger? I'm like, really, Deborah, you're going to have a go at your daughter for not picking up one piece of fluff in the
You know, this reminds me of a story from when I was a kid, that my dad used to get so ticked off if we didn't pick our coats up as we came in the door. And so one time one of my younger sisters had just come in and flung her coat on the floor, just, as young kids do. And Dad saw it and he yelled upstairs and he says, come back down here. Or he called to her and said, your coat's on the floor. And she yelled back downstairs saying, why are you telling me? Just pick it up and hang it up.
Oh. Well, she's right. Like, why?
She was right. But
like 100% she's right. It's like, okay, why are you telling? Just pick it up. Don't waste your energy. And
you know where the hook is.
And the reaction from Dad was
that is a bit of an eruption there.
We won't discuss Dad anymore.
Yes,
then.
no, we won't.
So let's just say she still has the skin on her bum, and she scooted downstairs and she picked up that jacket as quick as it could and hung it up, and they lived harmonious for the rest of their life.
Ever after. Well, but the point is that it's like it's his issue. He had the issue with it, and she's like, well, I just came in and took my coat off.
Yeah. So you've got to make it easy for people. So here's the rack, here's the hanger.
Yep.
All you've got to do is just here's your own little hanger.
Exactly.
I'm going to make it as simple as possible, but it is. And what you said is focus on things you can do things about.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. That's a perfect one. That's a perfect one. One of the ones, I know we talked about write it down as being the first one, but I actually would like to say, and especially because we're new into 2023 now, is set your intention.
Right.
And as much as that's part of write it down also, but this is the next one, is set your intention, because if you don't know what you want, the universe will give you what it thinks you need. Now, which is sometimes things that we don't want, but we have to go into that flow. But set your intention. What would you like from the day? What would you like from your meal? What would you like to feel, see, experience? What would you like from your friends? What would you like from you? What would you like from your physical body? Do you want to jump out of bed in the morning? Do you just want to wake up and slowly get out of bed? Set your intention of what you would like your life to be like.
To feel like. Yeah.
Be and feel. Yeah, totally. Feeling's really important. So if you don't know what you want, how are people going to know what they can give you or be around you for? So set your intention. What are you looking for friends? What are you looking for in a partner? What are you looking for in your money situation, in your house? Well, like, what is it you'd like?
Essential pieces here, because how do you know if you're in harmony or not if you haven't been intentional at the get-go?
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes what we were just talking about is sometimes we could actually have more harmony than we maybe even give ourselves credit for. Right? Harmony could be you picking up pieces of fluff whenever you see them.
Yeah. Well, bending over and pick up a piece of fluff instead of stepping over it and building up. But really, Deborah, you're going to lose your shite over a piece of fluff that sat there for 5 days.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff that can tip people to beyond. You hear about some of the things and they're like, she gave me a side look, or she rolled her eyes at me. It's like, whoa, you did what you did because she rolled her eyes. Yes, and I couldn't cope with it anymore. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that's that whole thing is don't build it up. Don't let it build up. When it turns into your physical form, you gotta pull up very quickly, because you've missed all the
little taps and nudges.
The insights into your head. Yeah.
But that's a really interesting part too, right? Is to essential tips for creating harmony. Let's say there was a scenario where somebody was rude or said something that we kind of go, oh, I didn't really like that. I think it's really important to have the conversation. Say, you know, when you use these words, this is how it makes me feel, so that you can actually air the whole conflict or the misunderstanding. Sometimes those types of things are misunderstandings, right? Because the other person could say, oh, my apologies, I didn't mean to use that kind of tone or those types of words, and this is what I really meant. But it's by having,
that's not my intention of saying that you're going to feel like that. I didn't. That's exactly, that's not my intention. I just thought you needed to know where I was at. Not my intention to make you go to a 10 when you're a 1 beforehand.
Exactly. And so my tip here is to honor things that you feel and air the grievances or the upsets, because we don't want to stuff things down. You know, oh, I can't speak to that person because they're really pissed off with me. Right? Yeah. Well, you don't know unless you
avoiding
address. So don't avoid. Sometimes you're not right in the right situation to have that conversation, but you know, just do a little tap on your forehead or something to sort of promise yourself, I'm going to come back to that and deal with it. Have that conversation. Bring it to their awareness or diffuse the situation in some way, right?
And I often reference when I say to people about, you know, not bottling it up, and I'm going to say a Coke bottle because we all know what Coke is around the world, Coca-Cola. And you think of that in a big 1.5 litre or a 2 litre bottle, or I don't even know what size they are over your way.
Liters.
Yeah. And you shake that. And when someone shakes you up, when someone rattles you and, you know, puts you 5, 6, 7 because they've said something and you've got that little rattle, like the little piece of fluff on the carpet, you know, and it shakes up and it shakes up and it shakes up. And what happens when you take that off? Holy gamoly.
Explosion.
Explodes big time, bigger than you've even thought of, but then you also lose a third of your bottle.
That's actually a really interesting point too, right? Because you create a huge mess too. Oh, yeah, you lose your bottle, half your bottle, but you make a mess.
And it's sticky and it needs cleaning up and it takes time and it's rinsing and frustration and often stains your carpet. But all those things, don't boil it up because it will, and I'm going to say it will explode. It will explode at a place that's possibly inappropriate.
I was just going to say, at a bad time,
an
being
eruption,
completely irrelevant, or you know, over the top, based in relationship to what's really going on. Right?
It's like, what's the bigger picture here? Because why did you just explode over a piece of fluff? Is it because I'm not pulling my weight around the house? Is it because what's the bigger picture here? Because you can't just.
You didn't tell me the truth about something.
Yeah, so even your dad saying, you know, just your jacket's on the floor. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Yeah, of course it is, Dad, because I put it there. Well, it shouldn't be. Oh, okay, we'll just move it then. Like, logically, your jacket's on the floor. I know, I put it there. Like, duh, is what that whole thing. But
don't tell me, you just pick it up.
Yeah. And so your dad's like, I don't want to pick it up, you know, and it's that whole, I'm sure your dad never talked about that. Yeah, in that tone. But that's exactly it. So you're right. Honor your feelings. Honor your feelings and just don't avoid it.
Yes, that's the key
because
piece.
It will escalate. Yeah. And we talk about, I know you and I talk about the old snowball coming down the mountain.
Yep.
And it picks up the skiers and the twigs
and the stones and the trees even.
Yeah, and the odd random ski pole, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then kapoof, it explodes, and it reaches so far out.
It's huge, the ripple effect. And so then that's such a damaging thing, and there ain't no harmony in there. Well, maybe the harmony is when the snowball breaks up into pieces. And melts.
Yep, 100%, and it is until it melts.
Yeah,
and then you're left with another level of cleanup, which is a liquid cleanup when before it wasn't. It's not my stuff to clean up. Yeah, it is, because it's bugging you. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's that saying. I've said that before on previous episodes. That saying that says, what is it that's pissing me off in you that I can't see or honor in me?
I know.
Because it
I
is
know.
when we get really, really bent out of shape, like, dang it, look at that person's doing this. Yeah, wait. What's going on in you?
Hang on a minute. Let's just pull up. And it is funny because I just talked to, we're doing a mentoring. I do a 12-month mentorship. And this week we were talking about, yesterday we were talking about doing a budget. So you know how much is actually coming out of your, I'm not going to say budget, we're actually doing a tracking. And we're just looking at the moment how much is coming out. And I said, please, every time you do this, do not beat yourself up and go, oh my God, I bought 4 coffees yesterday. No wonder there's $20 gone, or da-da-da. Just so all you're doing is keeping a track of it. And it is quite a sickening process, but try not to beat yourself up. And I said, I did it for the month of December. And I've just asked them to track for 1 week. And one of the ladies went, I knew you were up to something, because you were talking in December, you were saying things like, it cost me $382, which usually you would say, oh, it's around 300 or it's around 400.
Right, but you had it right down to
and she said, like, yeah, and she said you were saying things like cost $380 or that cost $258. And she said you were exactly, and I was going, what's really going on here? What is she's really, there must be something going on, money
with her number.
Yeah, she said there must be something money going on because Deborah's communications changed, but she couldn't figure it out. And then of course I said, well, I did this for the whole month of December, and she went, oh, that's why you were like this. And I was like, what? And she told me, and I said I hadn't even consciously noticed I'd changed in my vocab by saying it's around 400 or 350. I'd say it's $382 it cost me. So I was exact, but it is. So people actually express what's going on.
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
Verbally, without actually even showing what's going on.
It's an interesting part though, because it creates a bit of a harmony in itself. Right, because that's the elevated awareness, and so without even really thinking about it, it's just, this is my vibe, but it's because you've created some harmony within you in that tracking process. You're not beating yourself up saying, oh, you know, I shouldn't have spent over $400.
Well, yeah, and it's, and as soon as you said not beating yourself up, there's another tip.
Yes.
Like you know, you can't deal with, well, you can deal with what's happened in the past. You can't change what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
No, you can't change physically what's happened in the past. Mentally. You can't change physically what's happened in the past.
So this acceptance. It's super important to accept all that is. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And well, there's the old saying is, when you look when you're driving, what do you see? Your rear vision mirror is actually really small because it's behind you compared to your front driving window. What do you call it? Front driving window, because that's so big, because that's where you're going. Focus on that rather than that little thing that you can see.
Rear view mirror. But the other point that I like to make is that, can you imagine how many accidents you would have if you drove along the road only looking at the rear view mirror?
Oh, I love that. You're so true.
Yeah. You'd be like banging into everybody. So therefore, the rear view mirror is
the past is the past.
Glance, just the odd
It is. It's
glance.
a glance. It is a glance. It's a glance. Glance in New Zealand. We're not going to put on Deborah's accent all around the world because she only knows New Zealand. But you're right. It is. Your past is a glance. Oh, your past is a glance. Your past is a glance.
But you see, so your past, I really like this analogy, because if your past is just a glance, then you can use that glance to kind of go, oh, look, I just passed that place. Good. Or, oh, I just saw, that's making me think of retrogrades, Mercury retrogrades. That's all it is. So you're looking at things in your rearview mirror because it's going at a different pace or a different speed than you are, right? So it's good. Well, because the other point about glancing in your rearview mirror is because sometimes you can inadvertently be speeding and oops, that was a speed trap. Slow down.
Oops. But knowing that you cannot change your past physically, you can change it mentally, and that is all part of that letting go.
Yes.
You can't, like, shame and guilt will do some crazy as reframe my wording. No, sorry, crazy as physical symptoms will come into your body if you're holding onto the past.
Definitely.
Fantasies, destroyers, the one that got away, I used to be this slim, or I used to do this, or before kids I didn't do this, or I used to work for an amazing company and now I work for myself and I struggle. There's so many, like, that's the past.
Yep.
Acknowledge it. And you're right. The past is a glance.
You're funny. You sound American there.
That's supposed to be a little bit of a Canadian.
Yes.
Makes it even worse. Okay, we know I'm not good at accents.
But so such an important piece too, because as you were saying that about people who complain, I used to be this, but now this, and I used to, and yeah, sometimes we forget that everything is by our own creation. So if you used to work for this great company, that's great, but now you work for this great thing that you set up, said yes to, this business that's yours. So what can you celebrate about where you are in the choices you've made? And if it's the truth that you're in a whole bunch of situations that are not of your preference and are disharmonious, and you can change them.
Yeah.
Because you really are the boss of you. We all are the boss of us, and we are always creating our own experience.
I'm going to put that you are the boss of you. I'm going to put that as another tip.
It is.
Because I say that so often, hand on heart. I say that so often to people.
I say it with the hand on your fist on your hips.
Yeah. Because that, just what Moira just said, if you only get one tip, I'm going to say, if you only get one tip out of today, which there's clearly more, you are the boss of you.
You are the boss of you. Always, 100%.
We could have done this podcast in 5 minutes.
Yeah, we could have just been done right there. That's the tip for creating harmony. You're the boss of you.
But that is probably one of the big, you are the boss of you.
Yep. And, as you're saying this, perhaps then, if you really breathe into that and really own that, you are the boss of you, then things that are not in harmony could simply be a little situation that's coming up to bring your awareness to, wait, what choice do you make? Make a different one. If these words or these situations, or it's just feeling off or just not quite right. We all know those kind of situations where we can't really put our finger on it, but it just feels not right. Okay, but you're the boss of you. So what do you need to do? What can you do to change that?
Yeah.
That's it. You all have the power to do that. We are creator beings, right?
Yeah. I'm just this you are the boss of me has just blown me, because even though I've just left with, oh my God, there's a lot of things that I'm letting other people be the boss of.
Yeah. I think this is something that we can
the old
so
download
easily
of,
do
damn.
inadvertently, right?
Without even knowing, because it's easier. because it's easier just to
Yeah.
go, oh, just do this, just do this, just do this.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you think it's easier to avoid than actually, and it's not conflict. It's, I did a video on something like, it was changing the word conflict to conversation, because it's not conflict. Confrontation to conversation. Change the word conflict.
Oh, I like that. That's a nice
Change
one.
the word from, what is it, to conversation? Confrontation to conversation. That's it.
Okay.
It's just a conversation.
Confrontation to conversation. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when it's just a conversation, it's not confrontation, it's just a conversation. And that's just sits under that. You are the boss of you.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. It's just a conversation. How they take it, that's their stuff. But how you take it, that's your stuff.
Well, also too, so turning a confrontation into a conversation to me would also mean that you have to just create a wee bit of space and time, put your hand on your heart, take a few deep breaths, so that you can be present and conscious of the words you're using. You're not going to use inflammatory words or accusatory words or
It's
things.
heartfelt speaking.
Yes, you're coming from your heart to say, I really need to say this, and this is coming as a conversation. I really need to say this, or I need to ask for this, or I need to request that this is how something goes, right? Those are all beautiful conversation type words. But if we...
But even can you hear the way Moira's even talking?
Yes.
That's the difference. It's the tonality as well.
Precisely.
And your energy.
Precisely.
Yeah, but so you can keep talking now. I just wanted to interrupt there and just say, listen to her the way she's talking. Now Moira's going to go, okay, I'm going to talk very differently now.
Yes, now I have to totally pattern interrupt that one.
Yeah,
Not really. But I think the tip here is that sometimes we can be sitting with a bit of charge, right? A bit of energetic.
Well, it's
charge,
nervousness. It's nervousness. It's last time I mentioned this to you, you lost your shite. Or last time I mentioned this to you, we didn't talk for 3 days. So you've got those. I'm going to say those past stories, those ancestral stories that you're attached to, that you've allowed to attach to you.
Precisely. And so being the boss of you, then and being aware of, okay, I'm triggered. I'm really pissed right now. Okay, maybe that's not the best time to have your conversation. So just focus on your breath for a little bit. Bring some harmony within you, but also have that conversation. Don't stuff it down. That's one of the tips we already covered, is don't stuff things down, right? Yeah. So I like that. Changing confrontation to conversation would actually be creating harmony in itself, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, even just that. So instead of going, I'm going to talk to my mum about this. I'm going to have an argument with my mum about this. I'm going to have a conversation with my mum about this.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to address this I'm going to talk to my team about it. Instead, I'm going to I'm going in all guns a-blazing. I've got my battle things. I'm ready. I've got my boots on. I've got my, I've got all my evidence. I'm going in. Start from,
there's something we need to chat about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent tips and conversation about essential tips for creating harmony. Let's do our little zoom through.
Recap.
We're going to do our recap, and we always do this, that we're going to recap, and there'll be more pieces that come back through. But I love all these different layers. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So my dear, what's your first tip on this essential tips for creating harmony?
Write it down.
Write it down.
That's it. Write it down. Brain dump. Get it all out of your head. All the things you want to do, all the things you don't want to do, all the things you have to do, should, ought to, have to, anything that's going on, any frustration, write it down. Get it all out of
anything that's bothering you, anything that's gone blah 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 in your head, writing it all down. Absolutely.
I have my notes on my phone. And they go right back, just from anything, any idea you get, anything, just write it down. Don't store this stuff in your head, because your brain is in a beautiful place. And if you can write all that stuff down, you're just freeing up more space for beautiful more things to come in.
Absolutely. Something I was having a conversation with somebody just this weekend, and we were talking about journal writing. And she said, and I hadn't ever done this, but I'm going to, because I thought it was a great idea. She has like 4 different types of journals. She has ones for her creative ideas, ones for her feelings, ones for all the different projects and ideas. And I thought, that's epic. So now I actually have 3 sitting on the corner of my desk, because I just thought that was great. But it was that whole thing of having things written down, but having them in places where you could go back and access them. So I thought that was a great writing things down.
I love that, because my partner, she actually she has an A4. Yeah, the big one. Yeah. She has the A4 pad, and there's a pad and it has 5 dividers in it.
Oh, nice.
So when
that's about like letter size for us North American peeps.
Oh, is that okay?
It's a little bit bigger than letter size, but it's just helping you there.
Okay, good. And so if she's doing football or anything for football, she'll put in the football section, or if she's doing anything
Excellent.
for one of her colleagues, it goes into it. Yeah, because and I started buying her these, and she was like, "Oh, these are so great. I do this," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think about that. I just thought, oh, these are cute."
Cool.
I thought, oh, shiny, cute cover. I like those. Oh, she'll like those. I'll buy that. But that's the great stuff, is actually just separating. I love that idea. Didn't even think about it for a journal.
No, I just thought that was a fabulous idea.
Yeah, brilliant.
Different ones for different taking notes.
But you can just keep it simple and just do it in one place.
Yes, you can. You can. But I'm just thinking, I like to have.
I love the idea. Yeah,
different places to go for it. My next tip was to focus on what you can do, not getting all bent out of shape on all the things you can't control. We talked about 2020 on that one.
Oh, 2020 taught us so much. So much.
Focus on what you can do. Absolutely.
Focus on things you can do. Yeah, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
That's the old stay in your lane.
Yep.
Yeah. The next tip I had was set your intention. And if you're not clear on what you're desiring, how do you think people can actually fulfill that? So if you're looking for a new partner, write down, what do you want in a new partner? If you're looking for more money in your bank account, what is it you're looking at doing? Like, set your intention, and what do you want to see and feel with it?
Absolutely. I think that's so important, because how will you know when you've created harmony if you haven't been intentional with it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we say, when you start a new business, you write out a business plan. Like, set your intention. What is it you want? And this is not a checklist for I succeeded or I failed. This is okay. And that's those steps. But set your intention of what you desire.
Yeah. What do you wish for? Absolutely.
Yeah.
My next one was to not bottle things up. Don't stuff things down. Not it's actually, and this is a beautiful one where we were talking about the turning confrontation into conversation, right? Say, and Deb's dogs want to have some voice in here too, by the sounds of things. But this is such an important part too. And so I really encourage people to recognize when you have something to communicate, but don't stuff it down. Own your feelings and share from your heart, right?
Absolutely. I can't mute. They're slowly going to stop. But there you go. And we say share them. And what happens? The dog just shares his feelings.
Yes, they're totally present with what they've got going on.
I'm going to have to just pause for a moment here.
The next tip that we'll go into is to not beat yourself up. Such an important one, right? This tip is about don't beat yourself up, because sometimes we can, the previous tip we were just talking about not bottling things up, not stuffing things down. But sometimes we can get into scenarios where, I wish I'd done something bigger or better or different, and I suck. And so we talked a wee bit about the sort of guilt, shame, beating yourself up. Don't beat yourself up, because it's like you are always doing your best. Sometimes you just have to accept that's what it was, that's what I did. right?
Well, that's where we talked about your past as a glance.
That's right.
Past as a
Where we
glance.
talked about the rear view mirror. You do not drive down the road looking only at your rear view mirror, because you're going to have a lot of accidents, let me tell you.
Well, you've got a now what is it letting it go? You've got an actual program.
Yes.
Is it called letting it go?
Letting go.
Letting go. Yeah.
Just letting go. Yeah.
Letting go. And that's exactly it. Let it go.
Let it go. It's
Let it
not
go,
part of you
because
anymore. It's done.
That's big for harmony.
Huge for harmony. Huge for harmony, because harmony's here in this present moment. And so, you know, we've talked about writing things down and dealing with emotions and dealing with situations as they come up. That all just creates an ability to just be present here in this moment, not beating yourself up, accepting past is over and done. And that's why we're saying about the past, you can glance at your rearview mirror, because sometimes that can give you some insights into, oh yeah, look at how much better I am at this situation, or now look at, I really got that message or that lesson or that piece of wisdom. Look at how I'm applying it or how I'm rolling with it now, right?
Absolutely. And when you must acknowledge how far you've come.
Truly.
Because you know, but also not holding on to the, oh, I used to be this.
Yes.
I used to be this. This is not a process. This is a process of looking and seeing how you've evolved, not how you haven't evolved. Because every person has evolved every year, every day, every month. They've evolved in another way. And maybe your life is changing from where it was.
Truly.
From back there, and you don't know what's ahead of you.
Absolutely. And so here's the thing, when we were talking about that, about the, oh, I used to be able to do this and now I can't, or I used to be there and now I'm here, is the tip that we talked about is always remember that you are the boss of you. Yeah. We are such powerful creator beings, and that everything that we experience and that we are in, we created it. Yeah. Which is not in any way, shape, or form intended to be like, well, you know, what's that saying? We used to say that in Scotland. You made your bed, so you have to lie in it.
Oh, yeah.
No, if I made my bed and I didn't like it, then I can get up and get out of it and change the covers and change everything about it. Right?
Yeah. I can change it at any time.
Absolutely.
Well, and that is that you are the boss of you.
Totally.
And that's that, you know, we talked about hand on the heart, but you know, it's actually hands on your sides. I am the boss of you. And it's not hands on your hips that I am the boss of me. You know, you don't have to do that.
Well, you can if you want to, if it feels good.
Yeah. But you are the boss of you. And that's where we talked about changing confrontation to conversation.
Yes.
That's all it is. That's all. And even just saying that, oh, I can have a conversation with my mother instead of a confrontation. Yeah. Or I can have a conversation with my child or the teacher at school or whatever. And it's just a conversation. And
so the little add-on tip that I had to that one was to remember to get yourself into a good soothed space. Like you can't have a conversation if you've gone up to a 10 and you're feeling all triggered and upset. So if you're a 10, there ain't going to be no conversation that you're going to have with somebody. Nope. That they're going to hear what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. Well, my dear, I'm actually going to add another one. Oh, I'm just going to invite you to do that. I know. I was just going to say, I don't think we've said it. Is it's okay to walk away? Ah, yes. I don't know if we've actually said that. I don't think we did, but that is perfect. Yes, it is totally okay to just walk away. As long as, and it is as long as you tell the other person, I will come back to this conversation, because you're respecting them as much as you're respecting yourself. Yep. I'll come back to this conversation, but right now, I just would be wise for me to take some time out. Something that I like to say is, I don't have the bandwidth to do this right now. Yeah, I love that one. I did that last week. Someone said something to me, and I said, don't have the bandwidth for this right now. So it's bandwidth, it's being respectful to me, but it's also being respectful to the other, saying it's not that I'm running away and not going to deal with this or not going to have the conversations. Just I don't have the bandwidth right now. Yeah, that's it. Because everyone wants to be seen and heard,
And if you say to somebody, I'm out of here, they're like, well, hang on, we're still discussing this. I didn't know, like, we're on a time, like, huh? Are you coming back? What are you doing? So just it's that seen and heard. I don't have the bandwidth right now. I'll be back. So now you don't have to put a time frame on it.
No.
That's the other thing, is because don't say to someone, I'll be back in an hour, because if you're back in 55 minutes, they're not ready. If you're back in an hour 5, they're furious. So
but then also too is you got to allow your own process, because do you really know how long you need to recalibrate
exactly
your
it.
bandwidth?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's okay to walk away.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that.
So you don't have to invite me to
excellent.
say one more tip now. I've just thrown that one in. I went, oh, hang on, there's a really good one.
That was an excellent one. I'm glad you snuck that in. Very important. Very important.
Yep. Perfect.
Excellent. Essential tips for creating harmony. Well, my dear, this has been such a beautiful, harmonious, heartfelt conversation. I've really enjoyed all the different pieces that we brought into this conversation. So in getting ready to wrap this up, dear listeners, we'd love to hear, what was your favorite tip? And do you feel like we missed any in these ideas for creating harmony? How much harmony do you experience? And can you up-level it? Now, we did our check-in, our assessment at the beginning on our checking in physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, on our scale of 0 to 10. And both of us were at a 2 to begin with. And we'd love to hear from our listeners, where were you at the beginning and where are you now? As we check in. So Deb, you were at 2.
I actually would have said I'm a 0, but my heart is still racing from jumping up and hitting mute and racing up to the door because of the dog. So I'm going to say I'm a 0.5, because I'm definitely not 100% harmony right now. I'm on the edge of my chair, even though the door's locked. I'm just waiting on that bark to happen between me and the door. So I'm going to say a 0.5, but I would have said a 0 until
that we
until
estimate.
The little toe rags decide to have a confrontation with 2 cats. Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of a conversation.
Yep. Well, they're having a conversation in their way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So for me, I am actually at a 0. Like I said, I really enjoyed the flow and the harmony that we felt co-created here. So like I said, dear listeners, we'd love to hear from where you're at. And if you valued these tips and enjoyed these tips, we would love for you to do the next step. Your next step is to share this information, share this episode with your friends, families, loved ones, people that you would like to create harmony with, people that you're maybe not in harmony with, but you would like to. Just share it. That's our intention. And actually, if you think about it, these deliciously motivated mindset conversations are all about creating harmony. That's
of course they are.
Undercurrent of the vibe of what we're doing. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, dear Deb. Thank you, dear listeners, and we will be back here next week.
Fabulous. Thanks. Team. Thanks. You.
Bye.
Thanks, Moira.